Now, before I jump into the contents of this video, for those who are unaware, these leaks, and that's in air quotations there, are meant to be taken with a grain of salt because the confirmed pictures aren't horseshit, but anything that I speculate could be a load of shit and is to be taken with a grain of salt because they're meant to be entertaining throughout the wait for House of the Dragon Season 1, or as it's known on this channel, the Lone Knot. Now, real quick, if you enjoy this, slap a like on it, as a like goal is going to be 42. Okay, so as you saw from the title and thumbnail of this video, I'm going to be discussing the opening scene, what I think is going to happen in the very first episode. Now, obviously, not the entire episode, because not enough leaked pictures have been, released online. I do think that with the updates of the potential casting of the child actors of Bela and a few others, it's going to be interesting to see how many more pictures are going to come out, specifically when the battle scenes start. Now, for those who are unaware, Emma Darcy has been in Spain for the last several days. Now, House of the Dragon and the cast and the crew and all that filming isn't supposed to take place until October, but they could be doing some sort of preemptory, that's not a fucking word, but they could be doing some sort of shots that involve just Emma Darcy and maybe someone like Matt Smith. Maybe the types of filming they're going to be doing are requiring like a long haul. Maybe they're going to be there at several different times, but for only a few days at a time. Or Emma could be on vacation and they're just posting pictures to their Instagram of cool shit they find while they're in Spain. I don't know, you all let me know down in the comment section. But what I was getting at is once the battle sequences start, which I think a lot of them are going to be filmed in Spain, that's when the best types of videos can be made. Because then we can speculate on the battle timing or the battle time frame in the first season. We'll know, where it kind of takes place when you add it with other leaks. But for right now, I think most of the stuff that's happening in the early episodes, or maybe in the later episodes, are being filmed indoors. They have this massive fucking studio in Leavesden, and that's why there hasn't been so many set leaks. Now, there have been people that are stalking child Instagram accounts to say that they have a role in the new fucking show, and I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm just saying that none of the child actors have been really announced. A few of them have been confirmed because they're following other actors who are following like the director of photography or some shit. I don't know, it's just fucking weird. Those accounts are private. Somehow people are able to follow them and then repost them. All of that aside, getting on track for this video, because it isn't going to be very long. House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 1, what's going to happen? Now, I think the opening scene is going to be Prince Daemon or Rhaenyra flying on the back of their dragon and arriving at either Dragonstone or King's Landing. The main reason being is because that's any Targaryen, mainly Daenerys, flying on the back of their dragon with King's Landing or some familiar environment like Dragonstone beneath it, that's iconic. That lets anyone who's watching this show who just happened to flip the fucking channel and land on HBO like, what the fuck is this? Oh shit, it's a new Game of Thrones thing. You know what I mean? We need some sort of iconic symbolism like that to be the opening scene for this new series. I think the main thing we can take away from the first series is that the very first episode of Game of Thrones Season 1 had a lot of the child actors who were featured sort of showcasing who they are, and we got to see Arya, we got to see Bran, we got to see Sansa, we got to see Jon Snow, we got to see Robb. We also got to see Ned and Catelyn. We got to see all of House Stark, and then the king shows up. Then we get to meet the king. Then we get to meet Cersei. Then we get to meet the bad guys who become good guys, who end up being bad guys in the end. That's what's going to happen in this first episode. I think the first opening scene is going to be a Targaryen, notably Prince Daemon or Princess Rhaenyra, flying on the back of their dragon and landing in King's Landing. And we may even get the opening scene with the younger child actors. Maybe we're going to get a specific moment in Westerosi history that's around the time frame of the dance that's going to be showing a younger version of Rhaenyra, or perhaps a younger version of Matt Smith, arriving on their famous dragons to King's Landing. This would start the series out in a flashback, and it'll show you, it'll be obvious this is Westeros, this is Game of Thrones, but it'll show you that, hey, this show is going to be covering a massive amount of time, and it's going to be doing the most important thing that, Game of Thrones is famous for, which is world building. This is at in my opinion, this is my favorite time period in Westerosi history. Now, obviously, the heroes, the Age of Heroes, and then before the Targaryens came over to Westeros, and obviously what goes on in Essos and everything about Yeti and all that shit is exciting. But in Westerosi history, the dance is my favorite time period. It's literally at breakneck speeds. Like, obviously, we have the unreliable narrator for the actual like book version of this content, but in my opinion, this is like George's most episodic type of material that he's written. I've said this before, he wrote this story to be adapted to television, whereas Game of Thrones was never meant to be adapted. This event, these events in history in this made-up world of Westeros were meant to be adapted. It's very episodic. All of the characters that are going to be playing main roles have like their personality traits and who they are sort of listed, but it's all written from the perspective of someone who is not them. So we get to see, Ryan Condal, Miguel Sapochnik, and George bring these characters to life. And obviously the actors who play them, but they have a certain amount of freedom where we're not going to have these crazy expectations like we did with Game of Thrones when they don't do a certain thing. Because we read the POV chapters for A Song of Ice and Fire and for Game of Thrones. We know what's going through these characters' heads. So when Jon Snow does something like, I don't want it, or she's my queen, or anything like that, we're like, hold the fuck up. We know this person's internal motivation. They wouldn't say something like that. Specifically, Tyrion. He kind of, gets dumbed down in favor of other characters, and he does things in later seasons that are a little bit unbelievable when, like I said, you can read his actual fucking thoughts in Game of Thrones. This new series, you kind of can, but not really, because it's all written from like an outsider's perspective. They're given leeway, they're given freedom. We get to see how creative they truly want to be, but play within the bounds, because it's not like super established. We don't have direct quotes of internal monologue from certain characters. We do, but it's nowhere near like Game of Thrones. So I think this first episode will consist of an opening scene that will be perhaps a younger Rhaenyra, perhaps a younger Matt Smith, or Prince Daemon riding on their dragon and arriving in either King's Landing or Dragonstone. Then the very next scene will be featuring the child actors who are going to be taking a part and growing into the role on this series. They could do that with the flashbacks. That may be their version of it. They could show us the younger Rhaenyra, the younger Alicent, and all the other younger versions of the characters that we get to see in the beginning, and maybe that's most of the first episode. And maybe like towards the end of the first episode, we get a flashback to the modern times, which is near like 180 years before the events of Game of Thrones, where, everybody's aged up and the actual dance and the war for Targaryen succession is going on. And in the first episode, we see something crazy like maybe this is where Rhaenyra takes King's Landing. Maybe the flashback leads us all the way up to Viserys' funeral, and then like we find out that just before the actual show picks up, this is where Alicent has crowned her son Aegon king, and we get to pick up with that small council where a certain lord is getting his throat slit. I don't know. I think we're right at that cutoff time. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you made it this far through my spastic rant video, thank you for watching. Please, if you enjoyed this, slap a like on it. The like goal is going to be 42. I want to give a super special shout out to all my Patreons over on patreon.com/SirHuntsReviews. And I want to thank you all again so much for watching. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunt's House of the Dragon. Zaldrizas Pusdari Ixos Daor. Long night.